Janine Martinez adjusted her comfortable travel clothes. Faded blue jeans, a plain navy cashmere sweater with slight pilling at the elbows, and well-worn white Adidas sneakers. A deliberate departure from her usual executive attire. Her chestnut brown skin glowed even without makeup, and her natural curly hair was pulled back into a simple ponytail. From her shoulder hung a distinctive Birkin 30 handbag in Etain Togo leather with palladium hardware. Final boarding call for Skyway Airlines Flight 2187 to Chicago. The announcement echoed through the terminal, cutting through the white noise of rolling suitcases and hurried conversations. Janine quickened her pace, and as Janine settled into her economy seat, the worn blue fabric scratchy against her palms, she couldn't help but notice the flight attendant working her section. A woman in her mid-40s, with perfectly styled platinum blonde hair cut into a severe bob, skin pale as porcelain, and a name tag reading, Mary Roberts. There was something in Mary's demeanor that caught Janine's attention. The woman's smile seemed to brighten or dim depending on which passenger she was addressing, like a light switch flipping on and off. 2 rows ahead, an elderly white couple in matching beige cardigans received warm attention and assistance with their bags. When a young Middle Eastern man in a crisp white button-down asked for help, Mary's response was notably cooler, more perfunctory. These were subtle differences, the kind most passengers might not consciously register, but that Janine had been trained to observe. Just something to note, Janine thought to herself, jotting an observation in her phone. She was careful not to jump to conclusions. Perhaps Mary was simply tired or having a difficult day. Everyone deserved the benefit of the doubt. The plane took off smoothly, and about 30 minutes into the flight, Janine decided to visit the restroom. She left her purse on her seat, a common practice when passengers step away briefly, especially when the seatbelt sign was off and turbulence was as likely as snow in July. When she returned, she found Mary Roberts holding her handbag, examining it with suspicious eyes that reminded Janine of a bird of prey sizing up its next meal. "Excuse me," Janine said politely, "that's my bag." Mary looked up, her expression hardening as she took in Janine's appearance, her eyes traveling from Janine's sneakers to her casual clothes to her natural hair, making calculations with each glance. "Get your hands off that," Mary said loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear. "You were trying to steal this poor woman's purse." The accusation hung in the air like a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. Several passengers turned to look, their expressions a mixed bag of curiosity and discomfort. "What? No, I wasn't," Janine replied, keeping her voice steady despite the shock rippling through her body. "That's my bag," Mary scoffed, her red-painted lips curling into a sneer. "Give me a break. This Birkin costs more than what I make in 3 months. There's no way you can afford this." The words struck Janine like a slap. 20 years of professional accomplishment, of breaking barriers, of proving herself, and she was still being judged by the color of her skin rather than the content of her character. It was a tale as old as time. "Why would you just assume something like that?" Janine asked, aware that other passengers were watching the interaction unfold, some pretending to look at their phones while stealing glances. "Oh, come on," Mary replied with an exaggerated eye roll that would have made a teenager proud. "It's obvious why you can't afford this. Because I'm black?" Janine asked directly, refusing to dance around what was happening. The elephant in the room needed to be addressed. "Oh no, 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 no," Mary backpedaled quickly, hands raised in front of her as if warding off the accusation. "That is not what I said." "But it's what you meant," Janine countered, standing her ground. "I meant your clothes," Mary insisted, her voice rising with defensiveness. "Someone dressed like you does not walk around with a bag like this. Don't pull that race stuff on me. I'm just trying to do the right thing. I see people like you on these planes always trying to pull some shady stuff." Before we continue, let us know where in the world you are watching from, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's interesting video. Now let's continue with the story. The phrase, "people like you," echoed in Janine's mind like a bad song on repeat. How many times had she heard those words throughout her life? How many times had she been underestimated, prejudged, dismissed? "You don't know the first thing about me," Janine said calmly, her exterior composure belying the storm brewing inside. "Please," Mary scoffed, her voice dripping with condescension. "I wasn't born yesterday. I know everything I need to know just by looking at you." In that moment, Janine felt a familiar weariness wash over her. The exhaustion that comes from constantly having to prove your right to exist in spaces where others are given the benefit of the doubt. It was death by 1,000 cuts, and this was just the latest incision. "You really shouldn't rush to judgment about people before hearing their story," Janine advised. "You never know how it might come back to bite you." "Is that supposed to be a threat?" Mary demanded, her voice rising like mercury on a hot summer day. "What? No," Janine replied, bewildered by the escalation. A younger flight attendant named Ben Mitchell approached, concern evident on his face. His uniform was crisp and perfectly pressed, his brown hair neatly combed to the side, and his green eyes reflected genuine concern. He couldn't have been more than 25. "Is everything all right?" he asked, glancing between the two women, clearly sensing the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Before Janine could speak, Mary jumped in. "No, it's not all right. This woman was trying to steal your purse," she said, turning to the passenger in the seat next to Janine's. "But don't worry, I caught her in the act." The female passenger, Lauren Taylor, a woman in her 30s with auburn hair pulled into a messy bun and wearing a forest green sweater, looked confused. "This isn't my purse. It's hers," she said, pointing to Janine. "It is? Really?" Mary asked, skepticism dripping from her voice like honey from a spoon. "Absolutely," Lauren confirmed, her voice firm. "She brought it with her when she boarded the plane. I noticed it because it's gorgeous." "See, I tried to tell you," Janine said, fighting to keep her voice level. "Oh, that doesn't prove anything," Mary insisted, clutching the Birkin tighter, her knuckles whitening against the soft gray leather. "She could have easily stolen it from someone at the gate before she boarded." "I have never stolen anything in my entire life," Janine stated firmly, meeting Mary's gaze head-on. "Right. And I'm a multi-millionaire," Mary retorted sarcastically, hand on hip. The confrontation was drawing more attention now. Several passengers had their phones out, recording the interaction. Janine noticed a young man, Liam Cooper, filming discreetly from 2 rows back, his expression troubled beneath his black-rimmed glasses. He wore a Stanford University sweatshirt and had the look of someone who doesn't usually speak up but was clearly uncomfortable with what he was witnessing. "Look, I can prove the bag is mine," Janine offered reasonably. "Here, just—" "Oh, hands off," Mary interrupted, pulling the bag away as if Janine had tried to snatch it. "I'm not letting you touch this until I find its rightful owner." Ben Mitchell, the younger flight attendant, shifted uncomfortably, rocking back and forth on his heels, clearly struggling with how to handle the situation. His eyes darted between the two women, and he tugged at his collar as if it had suddenly grown too tight. "Okay, look," Janine suggested calmly. "Let's try this. How about you open it up and look at the ID?" Mary hesitated, then unzipped the bag and pulled out a sleek black leather wallet embossed with the Chanel logo. She examined the driver's license inside, her expression flickering between disbelief and the dawning realization that she might have made a mistake. "See, that's my license because that's my bag," Janine explained. "Now, can I please have my property?" "Oh, putting your license in a stolen bag doesn't prove anything," Mary insisted, doubling down like a gambler chasing losses. By now, several passengers were openly protesting. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted from casual disinterest to engaged concern, like a crowd gathering at the scene of an accident. "Miss, the bag is clearly hers," called out Samuel Martinez, an older gentleman sitting across the aisle. His salt and pepper hair framed a face lined with wisdom, and his deep brown eyes held a quiet dignity. He wore a navy blazer over a white shirt, his posture military straight. "Why don't you just give it back? Why don't you mind your own business and let me handle this?" Mary snapped, her tone suggesting she was hanging on to her professionalism by a thread. "I'm going to go through the rest of this bag." "Hey, you can't just search my bag," Janine objected, her patience wearing thinner than ice in spring. "Yes, I can," Mary retorted, her chin jutting forward defiantly. "I'm the flight attendant, which means you have to comply with my instructions, or I can have you arrested." "Arrested for what?" Janine asked incredulously, eyebrows raised. For interfering with my job, for one, Mary replied, her expression suggesting she was the cat who ate the canary. I'm sure there are other reasons we can find in here. Mary began rifling through the contents of the bag, pulling out items one by one like a magician from a hat. Ah, look what we have here. A fancy iPad Pro with a Hermes leather cover. That couldn't have been cheap. And I know they don't allow you to buy electronics with EBT cards. Gasps came from several passengers, the sound rustling through the cabin like wind through autumn leaves. The comment was so blatantly offensive that even Mary seemed to realize she'd crossed a line, but she was too committed to her narrative to back down now. She was in too deep to turn back. That is incredibly offensive, Janine said, her voice steady despite her rising anger, which she kept contained like a pressure cooker with the lid screwed tight. Well, so is stealing things, Mary replied dismissively, continuing to search the bag. She pulled out a set of car keys with a distinctive emblem, the Porsche crest, in black, red, and gold. Hey, easy with that. Why? Everybody knows it's not yours, Mary said, examining the key fob with exaggerated interest. Porsche? You honestly expect me to believe someone like you drives a $200,000 911 Turbo S? Where do you get off assuming something like that? Janine demanded, her patience wearing thinner than dollar store toilet paper. Long experience, ma'am, Mary said condescendingly, her smile not reaching her eyes. Now, be quiet before I put you on the no-fly list. Those are my keys to my Porsche because that's my bag, Janine insisted, her voice rising slightly despite her efforts to remain calm. Oh, really? Mary challenged, hands on hips. And what exactly do you do for a living that allows you to afford such expensive things? How is that any business of yours? Janine countered, crossing her arms. Everything is my business, and that I say is my business on my plane. Got it? Mary leaned in closer, invading Janine's personal space like an unwelcome houseguest. Now, looking at you, I can only assume you have a minimum wage job at best. You do not get paid enough to drive a vehicle like that. Next, Mary pulled out a pair of reading glasses with distinctive red frames. These are Cartier, easily 6 figures, and you expect me to believe you're walking around with this in your purse? Don't make me laugh. Those are my mother's, Janine explained, an edge of worry creeping into her voice. Be careful with those, they're prescription. Oh, your mother's, Mary mocked, her voice high and sing-song. Oh, the judge will love that. I've got you, lady. You're looking at felony grand theft. That's years in prison. When Janine reached for her mother's glasses, Mary jumped back as if she'd been burned. I'm being assaulted. Don't get physical with me. Ben finally intervened more forcefully, his professional demeanor cracking like an egg. Mary, please, let's just settle down. What's going on? She assaulted me, Mary claimed, playing the victim card like it was her ace in the hole. I did not, Janine protested, her frustration mounting like water behind a dam. I was just trying to get my stuff back. She didn't touch her, Lauren Taylor interjected, leaning forward in her seat. This flight attendant has been hassling her the entire flight just because of the color of her skin. That is not true, Mary insisted, her voice rising an octave. I'm not racist. I saw a crime being committed and I acted on it. A crime? Ben asked, confused, his brow furrowed. What crime? This woman stole this purse, Mary insisted, gripping the Birkin like it was a life preserver. That's my purse, Janine repeated firmly, her patience at the breaking point. I'm sorry. Did you see her steal it? Ben asked Mary directly, stumbling over his words as he tried to make sense of the situation. No, but I don't have to, Mary replied with the confidence of someone who believes the earth is flat. This bag is a $20,000 Birkin. You're telling me someone who looks like her has money for a bag like this? The naked prejudice in Mary's words silenced the cabin momentarily, as if someone had pressed a cosmic mute button. Ben's face flushed with embarrassment, turning as red as a ripe tomato. I don't think it's impossible for a woman like this to own a purse like that, he said carefully, choosing his words like someone walking through a minefield. I mean, we don't want to judge so quickly, right? Don't tell me how to do my job, Ben, Mary snapped, pointing a finger at him. I am still your supervisor. I'm just trying to do what's right. What's right is what I say is right. Got it? Her voice rose with authority, filling the cabin. God, you are useless. Stay here and watch her. I'm going to inform the captain that we have a thief on board and that we need the airport police at the gate when we land. I fully intend to press charges." Ben appeared conflicted, his gaze moving between Mary and Janine like a spectator at a tennis match. Wait, Mary. Mary, just hold on a second. Just think about what you're doing. We don't even know if she stole anything. Do as I say, or I'll have you fired," Mary threatened, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Am I clear enough?" As Mary stormed toward the front of the plane, her heels clicking angrily against the floor, the cabin buzzed with whispered conversations, their faces showing a mixture of sympathy and outrage. When the plane finally landed with a gentle bump, Mary returned triumphantly with 2 uniformed airport security officers, one African-American man and one white woman, both with expressions that suggested they'd rather be anywhere else. "There she is, officer," Mary declared loudly, pointing at Janine like a prosecutor in a courtroom drama, the one with the bag of stolen goods. As Janine stood up, smoothing her jeans and adjusting her sweater, recognition dawned on the male officer's face like sunrise breaking over the horizon. "Ms. Martinez? Janine Martinez?" "Hello, Officer Taylor," Janine replied with a small smile. They had met at several airline security briefings over the years. "Wait, you know this woman?" Mary asked, her confidence faltering like a house of cards in a breeze. "Who doesn't know Janine Martinez?" the officer replied, his tone suggesting Mary had just asked if water was wet. "She's a senior executive at your airline." "Executive?" Mary's face drained of color, turning as white as fresh snow. "What? But you… But I'm supposed to be unemployed and on food stamps, right?" Janine finished for her, her voice calm but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut diamonds. "At least that's what you saw when you looked at me." The cabin had gone completely silent, every passenger watching the scene unfold like the final act of a Broadway play. "I tried to warn you about rushing to judgment about people," Janine continued, her voice carrying throughout the cabin. "I am in charge of customer experience for the airline, and every now and then I like to take a few flights undercover and do spot checks of our personnel to ensure customer service is top-notch." Janine gestured to Lauren Taylor in the next seat, because, as this wonderful woman said earlier, this airline believes in treating its customers like family. And last I checked, families don't go around calling each other thieves because they happen to be black. "This is a big misunderstanding," Mary stammered, sweat beading on her forehead. "I swear, had I known who you were, I wouldn't have said anything." "But that's the whole point," Janine replied evenly, her gaze unwavering. "Your job is to treat everyone with respect, not just the people you think are important." Turning to the security officers, Janine said, "Mary, you're fired. Gentlemen, please escort Miss Roberts off the aircraft." Wait, you can't do this to me," Mary protested, her voice rising with panic. "Ben, say something." Ben looked at his former supervisor with a mixture of pity and resolve, like someone watching a ship sink after ignoring multiple warnings about icebergs. "There's nothing to say. You did this to yourself." "What? No," Mary protested, her voice cracking. "I didn't know who you were." As Mary was escorted away, her heels dragging on the carpet as if she were being led to the gallows, Janine turned to Ben and the passengers who had stood up for her, Lauren Taylor, Liam Cooper, and Samuel Martinez. "I can't thank all of you enough for having the courage to stand up for a stranger," she said sincerely, her eyes misting slightly. "That takes real guts." "It was the right thing to do," Samuel replied simply, with a shrug that suggested he couldn't have done otherwise. "I'm just so glad that I was able to help," Lauren added, squeezing Janine's arm gently. "Yeah, me too," Liam said, still holding his phone with the recorded evidence. "That was some straight-up bull what she was doing to you. When I meet with the CEO later today to give my report, I'll be sure to mention all of you," Janine promised. Looking at Ben, she added, "I'm going to recommend that he promote you to supervisor. Someone with your integrity is exactly who we need in leadership positions." "Mean? Really?" Ben asked, surprised, his eyes widening like a child on Christmas morning. Turning to the passengers who had supported her, Janine continued, "And for you all, I think we could arrange 2 first-class seats to wherever you want to go." "Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you," Lauren said, her smile brightening her entire face. Thank you very much. Samuel added with a slight bow of his head. I appreciate the gesture, but knowing that doing the right thing made a difference, that's reward enough. As the passengers filed off the plane, many stopped to shake Janine's hand or offer words of support. The incident had affected everyone on board, serving as a powerful reminder of how quickly we judge others based on appearance rather than character. It was a lesson written in bold letters that couldn't be ignored. Later that afternoon, in the corporate boardroom of Skyway Airlines, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline, Janine stood before the executive team, sharing not just statistics and customer satisfaction scores, but the story of what had happened on that morning's flight. The room was pin-drop silent as she recounted the incident. What happened today was unfortunate, she concluded, but it provides us with an opportunity to look at our training, hiring practices, and company culture. Because the truth is, Mary Roberts didn't develop those biases here, but somewhere along the way, she got the impression that expressing them wouldn't be a problem. The CEO, Caleb Mitchell, a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, nodded gravely. What are you proposing, Janine? A complete overhaul of our training programs, she replied without hesitation, her voice steady with conviction. One that addresses not just overt discrimination, but the subtle biases that often go unnoticed. And I want to start a mentorship program that focuses on building diverse leadership teams throughout the company. You have my full support, Caleb assured her, leaning forward in his leather chair. And what about the young flight attendant? Ben, was it? Yes, Janine confirmed, a smile softening her features. He showed real courage today. It's not easy to stand up to a superior, especially in a public setting. I'd like to promote him to senior flight attendant immediately and fast-track him for supervisory training. Done, Caleb agreed with a decisive nod. And Janine, I'm sorry for what you experienced today. No one should be treated that way, especially not someone who has given so much to this company. Thank you, Janine said, touched by his sincerity. But this isn't about me. It's about making sure that every person who steps onto one of our planes is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of how they look or what they're wearing. As she drove home that evening in her sleek black Porsche 911 Turbo S, the leather seats cool against her skin, Janine reflected on the day's events. The incident had been painful, humiliating even, but it had also revealed something important. For every Mary Roberts in the world, there were people like Ben Mitchell, Lauren Taylor, Liam Cooper, and Samuel Martinez. People willing to stand up for what was right, even when it wasn't easy.